What if I told you that the biggest threat to your future isn't failure, bad luck, or lack of opportunity? It's the modern life you've learned to call normal. Every day, millions of people wake up, follow the same routines, chase the same distractions, and slowly trade their freedom for comfort without ever realizing it. The question is, are you living your life? Or are you living a life that was designed for you? Modern life has created an illusion that we are more connected, informed, and productive than ever before. We carry the world in our pockets. We can access knowledge instantly. We can communicate with anyone, anywhere, at any time. On the surface, this looks like progress. But beneath that progress lies a darker truth that most people never stop to examine. The modern world is fighting for your attention every second of the day. And attention is not just something you use. Attention is your life. Whatever receives your attention receives your energy. Whatever receives your energy begins shaping your thoughts. And whatever shapes your thoughts eventually shapes your reality. Yet most people wake up every morning and immediately surrender their attention before they even think for themselves, before their own goals, before their own priorities, before their own dreams. A notification appears. A message arrives. A video starts playing. A headline demands attention. And without realizing it, their mind begins reacting to the world instead of directing itself intentionally. This is not an accident. Modern systems are built around capturing and keeping human attention. Every platform wants more of your focus. Every piece of content competes for your eyes. Every notification is designed to pull you back. Because attention has become one of the most valuable resources on Earth. And the darker truth is that most people do not even realize they are losing it. They think they are relaxing. They think they are staying informed. They think they are simply passing time. But slowly, day after day, their ability to focus deeply begins weakening. Their thoughts become fragmented. Their concentration becomes shorter. Their patience decreases, and their mind becomes dependent on constant stimulation. This creates a dangerous cycle. The more distracted a person becomes, the harder it becomes to think deeply. The harder it becomes to think deeply, the less aware they become. And the less aware they become, the easier they are to influence. That is why distraction is not merely an inconvenience. It is a form of control, because a distracted mind rarely questions anything. It rarely reflects. It rarely observes itself. It simply reacts. And when a person spends years reacting instead of reflecting, they slowly lose connection with their deeper potential. Think about it. How many people have dreams they never pursue because distraction consumes their energy? How many people know what they should do but never do it because their attention is scattered? How many lives remain average not because of lack of talent but because of lack of focused attention? The answer is far more than most people realize. A focused mind can change a life. A distracted mind struggles to change a day. This is why some of the most powerful individuals in history protected their attention fiercely. They understood that focus is power. Clarity is power. Deep thinking is power. But modern life encourages the opposite. It rewards speed over depth, reaction over reflection, consumption over creation. And because of this, millions of people spend years consuming endless information without ever transforming their lives. They know more but understand less. They are connected to everyone but disconnected from themselves. And perhaps the darkest part of all is that many people have become so accustomed to distraction that they mistake it for normal living. They no longer remember what true focus feels like, what silence feels like, what deep thinking feels like, what genuine presence feels like. But the moment a person begins reclaiming their attention, everything starts changing. Their thoughts become clearer, their purpose becomes stronger, their awareness expands. They begin seeing opportunities, patterns, and truths that were invisible before. Because attention is not just a resource, it is the gateway to consciousness itself. And the moment you realize that modern life is constantly competing for your focus, stop giving your attention away blindly and begin directing your mind intentionally toward what truly matters. Is the moment you break free from one of the greatest traps of modern life and start taking back control of your future. One of the greatest ironies of modern life is that people have never had more convenience, yet many have never felt weaker, more distracted, or more unfulfilled. Everything is becoming easier. Food arrives with a tap. Entertainment is available instantly. Comfort surrounds us everywhere. And while convenience itself is not the problem, the hidden danger appears when comfort becomes the highest priority in life. Because comfort feels good, it feels safe, it feels relaxing, but comfort has a secret side that very few people ever notice. The more comfort controls your decisions, the less growth controls your future. Most people believe they are making choices freely, but if you examine those choices closely, many of them are based on one simple question. What is easier? Not what is better. Not what is necessary. Not what will help me grow. Simply what feels easier right now. And this is where the prison begins, because comfort never announces itself as a limitation. It arrives disguised as convenience. It whispers instead of shouts. It encourages you to wait one more day, avoid one more challenge, postpone one more opportunity, and stay where you are just a little longer. And before you realize it, years have passed. The truth is that every meaningful transformation in human history has required discomfort. Every skill you have ever developed required effort. Every achievement required sacrifice. Every breakthrough required uncertainty. Every stronger version of yourself was built through challenge. Yet modern life constantly pushes people toward the opposite direction, toward convenience, toward instant gratification, toward avoiding struggle whenever possible. As a result, many people slowly lose their tolerance for difficulty. Small obstacles feel overwhelming. Delays create frustration. Challenges create anxiety. And anything that requires sustained effort begins feeling unbearable. This is not because people are weak, it is because comfort has trained them to expect ease. The human mind adapts to whatever environment it experiences repeatedly. If a person constantly seeks comfort, their ability to handle discomfort begins shrinking. They become mentally dependent on convenience. They need perfect conditions to act. They need motivation before taking action. They need certainty before making decisions, but life does not work that way. Growth rarely happens under perfect conditions. Growth happens when you move despite uncertainty. Growth happens when you continue despite discomfort. Growth happens when you choose what is necessary instead of what is easy. This is why comfort becomes such a dangerous prison, because unlike a physical prison, its walls are invisible. You do not feel trapped, you feel comfortable. And that is exactly why so many people remain inside it for years. They stop challenging themselves, they stop testing their limits, they stop exploring what they are capable of becoming. And slowly, their potential begins sleeping beneath layers of routine and convenience. The saddest part is that many people mistake comfort for happiness. But comfort and fulfillment are not the same thing. Comfort gives temporary relief. Fulfillment comes from growth. Comfort avoids struggle. Fulfillment emerges through overcoming struggle. Comfort keeps you where you are. Fulfillment comes from becoming more than you were yesterday. This is why some of the most meaningful moments in life often come after periods of difficulty. The struggle develops strength. The challenge builds character. The discomfort creates transformation. Without pressure, there is little growth. Without growth, there is little fulfillment. And without fulfillment, comfort eventually becomes emptiness disguised as security. The people who truly transform their lives understand this truth. They do not run toward suffering, but they also do not run away from discomfort. They understand that temporary discomfort is often the price of long-term freedom. They choose discipline over ease, growth over convenience, purpose over comfort. And because of that, they continue evolving while others remain stuck. And the moment you realize that comfort has been quietly shaping your decisions, stop allowing convenience to determine your future and begin embracing the challenges that force you to grow, is the moment you break free from one of the most invisible prisons of modern life and start becoming the person you were truly capable of becoming. One of the darkest truths about modern life is that people have never been more connected, yet many have never felt more alone. We live in a world where communication is instant. A message can travel across continents in seconds. We can see what thousands of people are doing every day. We can gather followers, likes, comments, and reactions at any moment. And yet, despite all of this connection, a quiet emptiness continues growing inside millions of people. Why? Because connection and closeness are not the same thing. Modern life has given people access to each other, but access is not intimacy. Seeing someone's life on a screen is not the same as truly knowing them. Sending messages all day is not the same as feeling understood. Being surrounded by people online is not the same as feeling connected in your heart. This is the hidden loneliness of the modern age. Many people wake up connected to hundreds of people, digitally but disconnected from themselves emotionally. They are constantly communicating but rarely expressing what they truly feel. They are constantly visible, but rarely truly seen, and because of this, a strange contradiction has emerged. People have more social interaction than ever before, yet many feel isolated, misunderstood, and emotionally exhausted. The reason is simple. Human beings were never designed to survive on shallow connection alone. We need depth. We need meaningful conversations. We need real understanding. We need moments where we feel accepted, valued, and genuinely known by another human being. But modern life often replaces depth with quantity. Instead of a few meaningful relationships, people collect hundreds of casual connections. Instead of genuine conversations, they exchange endless short messages. Instead of presence, they experience constant distraction, and slowly, relationships become wider but not deeper. The result is that many people begin feeling alone even while surrounded by others. They may have people around them. Physically, they may have followers. Online, they may receive attention, but deep inside, they still feel disconnected because attention is not the same as connection. Validation is not the same as love. Popularity is not the same as belonging. And this is where the dark truth becomes visible. Modern life often teaches people how to appear connected without actually feeling connected. It encourages people to share highlights instead of realities, to display success instead of vulnerability, project confidence instead of authenticity. And while this creates an image of connection, it often prevents real connection from forming, because true connection requires honesty, it requires openness, it requires the courage to be seen as you really are. But many people spend so much energy maintaining an image that they forget how to be genuine. As a result, loneliness continues growing, not because people are physically alone, but because they are emotionally disconnected. And emotional disconnection creates something dangerous. It creates a feeling that nobody truly understands you, that nobody sees your struggles, that nobody knows what you are carrying internally. Over time, this feeling can become heavier than physical isolation itself. This is why some of the most connected people in the world still experience deep loneliness. Because loneliness is not determined by how many people are around you. It is determined by how deeply you feel understood. The solution is not necessarily more connection. It is better connection. Deeper conversations, more presence, more authenticity, more real human interaction, more moments where people put down the screens and reconnect with reality. Because at the end of the day, the human heart does not need endless attention. It needs genuine connection. It needs meaning. It needs belonging. And the moment you realize that modern life has confused connection with closeness, stop chasing endless attention and begin building deeper, more authentic relationships with both yourself and others is the moment you break free from one of the loneliest illusions of the modern world and rediscover what true human connection was always meant to be. One of the most powerful illusions in modern life is the idea of success. From the moment people are young, they are surrounded by messages telling them what success should look like. Society creates a picture. Schools reinforce it. Media promotes it. Social platforms display it constantly. And without realizing it, most people spend years chasing goals they never truly chose for themselves. They inherit someone else's definition of success. And that is where the problem begins, because when a person never stops to question what they truly want, they often end up building a life designed to impress others instead of fulfilling themselves. They pursue achievements because they are admired. They follow paths because they are expected. They seek approval because it feels rewarding. But deep inside, many never ask the most important question: is this actually what I want? Modern life makes it easy to confuse admiration with fulfillment. You see someone else's lifestyle and assume it will make you happy. You see someone else's achievements and assume they will complete. You see someone else's definition of success and unconsciously make it your own. But the truth is, success that belongs to someone else can never fully satisfy you, because fulfillment comes from alignment, not imitation. Many people spend decades climbing ladders only to discover they were leaning against the wrong wall. They work tirelessly for goals they thought would bring happiness. They sacrifice years pursuing status, money, recognition, or approval. And when they finally arrive, they often feel something unexpected, emptiness. Not because the achievement was worthless, but because the achievement never addressed what they truly needed. The dark truth about modern life is that people are often rewarded for looking successful rather than feeling fulfilled. Society celebrates appearances, celebrates titles, it celebrates wealth, it celebrates visibility, but it rarely asks whether the person behind those achievements feels peace, meaning, or genuine purpose. As a result, many people become experts at creating the image of success while privately struggling with dissatisfaction. They have what they thought they wanted, yet something still feels missing. Why? Because external success cannot replace internal clarity. Without clarity, achievement becomes endless. There is always another goal, another milestone, another comparison, another level to reach, and the cycle never ends. The person keeps running, believing fulfillment exists just beyond the next achievement, but fulfillment is not found at the end of endless comparison. It is found when your actions align with your deepest values. This is why, too, people can achieve the exact same outcome and experience it completely differently. One feels fulfilled, the other feels empty. The difference is not the achievement itself. The difference is whether the achievement reflected their authentic purpose. Modern life constantly encourages comparison. Social media makes it worse. Every day, people are exposed to carefully selected images of other people's success. They compare their reality to someone else's highlight reel. They measure their progress against lives they do not fully understand, and comparison slowly steals self-awareness. Instead of asking, "What matters to me?" people begin asking, "How do I measure up?" Instead of creating their own path, they start chasing someone else's. And that is one of the greatest tragedies of modern life. Because every human being has a unique purpose, a unique calling, and a unique path of growth. But many never discover it because they spend too much time pursuing expectations that were never truly theirs. True success begins when awareness replaces comparison, when purpose replaces approval, when authenticity replaces imitation, and when a person finally becomes brave enough to define success for themselves rather than accepting the definition handed to them by the world. And the moment you stop chasing a life that merely looks successful, start questioning what truly matters to your heart, and begin building a future based on purpose instead of approval, is the moment you break free from one of the most powerful illusions of modern life and begin creating a success that actually belongs to you. One of the darkest truths about modern life is that the world rewards attention but often punishes deep thinking. Everywhere you look, speed is celebrated. Quick answers are preferred over thoughtful ones. Instant reactions are valued more than careful reflection. People are encouraged to consume more, scroll more, watch more, and move faster. And in the middle of all this noise, one of humanity's greatest strengths is quietly disappearing, the ability to think deeply. Most people do not notice this happening, because the change is gradual. Every day the mind is trained to seek the next piece of information. A new notification appears. Another video begins. Another headline demands attention. Another opinion competes for space in your mind. And because this happens constantly, the brain becomes accustomed to rapid stimulation. The result is that many people know a little about everything, but understand very little deeply. They consume information all day long, yet they rarely sit with an idea long enough to truly understand it. They gather facts, but they rarely develop wisdom. And there is a difference. Knowledge is collecting information. Wisdom is understanding what that information actually means. Modern life makes knowledge easy. Wisdom remains difficult, because wisdom requires something that modern culture rarely encourages: stillness. It requires time. It requires patience. It requires the willingness to sit alone with your thoughts and explore them deeply. But deep thinking feels uncomfortable to many people today because their minds have been trained to expect constant stimulation. Silence feels strange. Reflection feels slow. And when thinking becomes difficult, distraction becomes the easier choice. This is why many people react quickly, but rarely reflect deeply. They form opinions instantly. They judge situations immediately. They repeat ideas they have heard from others, but they rarely stop and ask themselves whether those ideas are actually true. And this creates a dangerous situation, because a person who does not think deeply becomes vulnerable to influence. Their beliefs are shaped by trends. Their opinions are shaped by headlines. Their emotions are shaped by whatever captures their attention in the moment. Instead of directing their own thinking, they allow external forces to do it for them. This is one of the hidden reasons why deep thinkers have always been rare. Deep thinking requires effort. It requires questioning assumptions. It requires challenging comfortable beliefs. It requires looking beneath the surface instead of accepting appearances. Most people never reach that level because modern life constantly pulls their attention away before depth can develop. But every major breakthrough in human history began with deep thinking. Every great invention, every profound philosophy, every meaningful discovery, every life-changing realization. Someone sat long enough with a question to explore it deeply. They resisted the urge to seek quick answers. They stayed with uncertainty. They allowed their minds to go beyond the surface, and that is where true understanding was born. The irony is that while modern life offers more information than any generation before us, it often creates less reflection. People are surrounded by answers but rarely ask meaningful questions. They are flooded with content but starved of clarity. Because clarity does not come from consuming more. It comes from understanding more deeply. This is why deep thinking is becoming a form of freedom. When you learn to think for yourself, you become harder to manipulate. When you reflect deeply, you begin seeing patterns others miss. When you develop wisdom, you stop being controlled by every trend, opinion, or emotional reaction around you. You begin living intentionally instead of reactively. You begin making decisions based on understanding rather than impulse. And slowly, your life starts moving in a different direction from the crowd. Because while the world races toward speed, depth remains one of the most powerful advantages a human being can possess. And the moment you stop allowing constant noise to control your mind, begin protecting time for reflection, and choose deep thinking over endless consumption, is the moment you reclaim one of the greatest powers modern life is quietly trying to take away from you. Perhaps the darkest truth about modern life is not distraction. It is not comfort. It is not loneliness. It is not even the endless pressure to conform. The darkest truth is that most people never realize these forces are controlling their lives in the first place. They live inside the system without seeing the system. They follow patterns without questioning them. They repeat routines without examining them. And because everything feels normal, they never stop to ask whether the life they are living is truly their own. This is why awareness is so powerful. Awareness changes everything, not because it immediately changes your circumstances, but because it changes how you see them. And once you see clearly, you can never completely return to blindness. Think about it. A person can spend years living on autopilot. They wake up, work, consume information, chase distractions, seek approval, and repeat the cycle day after day. Nothing appears wrong because everyone around them is doing the same thing. The behavior becomes normalized. The routine becomes accepted. The repetition becomes invisible. But then something happens. A moment of awareness arrives, maybe through reflection, maybe through struggle, maybe through a question they can no longer ignore. And suddenly they begin seeing things differently. They notice how much of their life has been shaped by external influence. They notice how often they react instead of choose. They notice how many decisions were made from fear rather than purpose. And for the first time, they begin observing their own life from the outside. This is where awakening begins. Not in some dramatic event, not in a single life-changing moment, but in the simple act of seeing clearly. Because awareness removes illusion, and illusion is often the foundation of limitation. The moment a person becomes aware of their distractions, they gain the ability to control their attention. The moment they become aware of their comfort zone, they gain the ability to challenge it. The moment they become aware of their fears, they gain the ability to move beyond them. The moment they become aware of their conditioning, they gain the ability to choose differently. Awareness creates freedom, and freedom begins internally before it ever appears externally. This is why two people can live in the same world and experience completely different realities. One remains trapped by habits, distractions, and unconscious patterns. The other begins rising above them through awareness. The environment may be identical, but the level of consciousness is different, and consciousness changes everything. Modern life often convinces people that freedom comes from money, status, influence, or possessions. But true freedom begins much deeper than that. True freedom begins when you stop being controlled by forces you do not understand. It begins when you recognize what is shaping your thoughts. It begins when you observe your own mind instead of blindly obeying it. It begins when you become conscious enough to choose your direction instead of drifting wherever circumstances take you. That is the real awakening. And that is why so few people experience it. Because awakening requires responsibility. Once you see clearly, excuses lose power. Once you understand your patterns, ignoring them becomes a choice. Once awareness arrives, transformation becomes possible, but so does accountability. And many people would rather remain comfortable than become responsible. But those who choose awareness discover something extraordinary. They discover that a completely different life was available all along, a life with more clarity, more purpose, more intention, more freedom. Not because the world changed, but because they changed the way they saw it. And that shift changes everything. And the moment you stop sleepwalking through modern life, begin questioning what is shaping your mind, and awaken to the truth hiding behind distraction, comfort, comparison, and fear, is the moment you step beyond the limitations that control most people and begin creating a life that is consciously chosen, deeply meaningful, and truly your own. The dark truth about modern life is that most people never wake up. They stay distracted, comfortable, and controlled until time runs out. But the moment you choose awareness over illusion, purpose over comfort, and truth over convenience, you stop being a product of the system and become the creator of your own destiny. Wake up now, because the cost of staying asleep is your entire life.